Hello, my friends. This is Pete from Another Fishing Show. Tonight we are doing another fishing podcast. I'm here with my buddy Greg. Greg, are we going to discuss anything of relevance this evening?
Everything's going to be very relevant, very timely, and groundbreaking.
Relevance and groundbreaking. Hold us to it.
This isn't another fishing show. This is Another Fishing Show.
So how's it going, everybody? I am sitting here in my basement once again doing a remote podcast with Sir Gregory Underdog. Greg, how you doing tonight?
Hey, man, I will say it's kind of strange doing these, not having you by my side here, but as I look into this lens, I'm just envisioning you, Pete. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to our audience, I'm using my imagination. So far, it's working.
So far, it's working. It seems like there's no sort of weird coordination of talking over each other. And I will point out the odor is much better when I'm solo, but I digress. So a couple of things I want to get this thing rolling with. Last Another Fishing podcast, I announced that...
Hey, honestly, I looked, not to cut you off, but I looked at the views on that.
Yeah.
And our podcast is getting more views than the Major League Fishing video, the vlog that you love that I did. Which is, to me, I don't get it whatsoever. You'd think that people would be searching for Major League Fishing stuff because Major League Fishing, I thought, was popular.
Right.
But no... Our audience does not want to see any more Major League Fishing stuff, so I'm done. I might be done doing Major League Fishing stuff because that was humiliating views.
I don't want you to do that. No,
what do you mean?
If anyone didn't see this video, and it sounds like that's everybody in the entire planet, I sent you a message when I saw it because I'm like, this is great, and I kind of have interest in what you're up to when you're not hanging out with me.
Yeah, that's nice of you.
Yeah,
I live a pretty interesting life.
Not when you're necessarily at home, because I'm aware of what's going on then, but when you're on the road, you kind of have this whole other cast of characters in your life.
Yeah.
And it kind of took you behind the scenes of Major League Fishing. It was cool to see you talking to, showing the stage, showing the TV truck, talking to different cameramen that you guys are all, up at the crack of dawn and getting to work. And I thought the whole idea was kind of cool because... You're always kind of talking about, people don't really realize always when you're working in television, they just think you're, at the craft services table enjoying some fantastic catering.
Yeah.
And really, even the fishermen aren't living that big of a life. They're getting up early and they're fishing.
It's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of...
I see all sides of it.
It's a lot of hard work. And for you guys, it's all about, making sure your gear's ready. Everything's got to be perfect. You can't have something go bad when you're out on the water. And then getting home at the end of the night, I don't know exactly how that one works, but a lot of your gigs involve getting rid of a ton of footage, and you're not just crashing when you get home. You have work to do when you get back to your terrible hotel room. And
what's nice is for Major League Fishing, it's a real good gig. I get my own room, which a lot of my career, I've not gotten my own room. I'm sharing rooms.
That's humiliating.
And so when I'm at 43 years old, it's like, it's about time that I get my own room.
Right.
So Major League Fishing we've always gotten our own room. And now with more of the success of Major League Fishing, it seems like we're actually going to nicer hotels.
That's huge, though. From a morale standpoint, just being alone in a hotel room and having some time to recharge. Where you're not,
totally. It's a big deal, dude.
And I'm sure you're usually chilling with guys, but there's not even many of my best friends I want to enjoy a hotel room with. It's kind of a personal situation.
Totally.
So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, and it's so you're getting up very early, and it's exhausting because you have to roll constantly. You're constantly rolling. We don't know, when a fish is going to be caught, obviously.
Right.
And so you're just rolling constantly. And I am one of these people where I grew up watching tournaments, and I really the old Bassmasters show when it was on. The Nashville Network. This is going way back. Yeah, the Nashville Network, TNN. Then it became Spike, which was a complete 180. But, so I've been watching a ton of tournaments, and I know, through my life, and I know what I like to see, what kind of shot I like to see framed up as an angler. And I know that, that fish catches everything to the viewer. So I know that the more I stay steady, my shot is steady, the better the chances, that I am going to be able to capture an awesome fish catch. And that's what goes through my mind all day.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I got to not be moving around too much. I got to be in the back of the boat, keep a steady shot, and roll. And and when you get that awesome fish catch, it's almost the next best thing to actually catching the fish yourself,
Right.
And but my whole point in all of that is doing that though is extremely exhausting.
Yeah.
And so to be off the water and then to have your own room after that is just like, I mean, a lot of times we shoot for 6 days. So the last night I'll go out and I'll party with the crew, but typically those 5 days where I'm just filming, I get back to my room and I crash. I just lay out, and it just, sometimes sometimes I'm completely naked, and it doesn't matter.
Sometimes
I can be
laying on a towel completely naked.
I just live in like an absolute caveman, and the great thing about a hotel is you could be such a slob.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And then as long as you don't put the do not disturb sign on, and I've done that before on accident. As long as the next you come back to a completely clean hotel after you just devastated it.
Yeah,
you're
basically like a rock star. And I would think I'm not speaking from experience, but a little bit of experience, I guess. But there's multiple layers of exhaustion there, because it's not just the physical part of having those big cameras on your shoulder, which sounds terrible to me for that length of time, but you're also, dealing with big breakers some days and wind.
Breakers?
Just waves.
I'm not out in the ocean.
No, but you can have a windy day out there. You're telling me
I've never heard of waves, freshwater waves referred to as breakers.
Well, you've never been on Lake Superior then, but
Actually, I have.
Anyway, I'm making a case for you here. So,
sorry.
So I'm saying there's, the physical exhaustion of holding a camera, and there's also you're dealing with waves, and you're dealing with sun, and you're dealing with wind, and sometimes you're dealing with rain. And that mental focus is probably the most exhausting part of that, because when you get back to a hotel room, you don't want to be like, hey, so, how are your wife and kids I don't care about?
Right. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a lot of, and that's, you brought up like the weather. That's the other thing too. Yeah, it can be mentally exhausting, because you're also having to think, okay, there's a storm coming, the cameras can take a lot as far as moisture, and it's really a pain to get the rain gear on the camera and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I know what these cameras can handle. So if it starts getting too much moisture on the camera, I will put the rain gear on. But I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's all these things, the weather being one of them, that can really be tough when you have all this expensive gear. There's all of these factors that go into making it somewhat stressful, but I've done it long enough where I kind of know how to mitigate disaster, how to redundancy on everything, and because when you're out on the boat, there's no one there to help you for the most part. I mean, I've been on shoots where it's even worse than that. At least Major League Fishing, if I have a problem, I have a mic or something go down, or a battery not working, or blah blah blah, I can call someone to come and give me something that's not fix something. Right. I've been on most of my career shooting, with my gear since I went freelance. I've had to just have everything dialed in, everything redundant, because I'll go on. I mean, I've done shoots as far north as the Northwest Territories. Sure. And the client is spending a lot of money, not only for my just for my day rate and everything else, but flying me up there, and it's on me, like, to make sure I have everything, and if one thing goes down, I've got a backup for it. Right. So that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Major League Fishing is actually very nice, because they actually kind of handle a lot of that stress, and
Sure.
make me just responsible for getting the shot. So that's really nice.
No, if we can just give people to care. But if you haven't seen this and you're listening, please check it out on our Another Fishing Show channel. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty good take on
A YouTube channel.
correct. And I caught a fishing show today. Nice. I actually told my wife I was
doing
grab
research,
some groceries in the morning, and they've got like a bar at the grocery store now. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll get a Bloody Mary. Why not?
Yeah.
And there was a fishing show on, and it was a bass tournament, and I only saw people catching 1.5 pound bass. And
that's a lot of bass tournaments.
And it was driving rain, so the camera lenses, were like 50% raindrops on the lenses, and they were just like, we're just going to roll with this, like we can't just stop filming, I guess.
I've been in that situation. I know those guys that probably did that.
I guarantee you did. But
yeah, so anyway, don't talk bad about them.
Where I was going before, I'm not. I was like, the cameraman had a tough gig. I mean, that's what I'm saying. But what I was saying before you went off on a tangent, which you should not feel bad about that video. But last podcast, I was bragging that our podcast was going to be available on all platforms because we've been getting a lot of requests for the podcast to show up on iTunes, and iTunes kind of generates it to a million other places.
When you say a lot of requests, how many? Like, it's all relative, isn't it?
I guess it's all relative, but yeah, I mean, enough to make me think, we should have this podcast, out and about. Why not?
No, I agree. I mean, I'm all for it being on different platforms.
Right, but so there was a glitch. We built a website, and then we built an RSS feed, as boring as that sounds, that's what iTunes needs, and then there was a glitch with our website. So it was up for a second. One episode was an old episode, and then it fell out again. So we've re-registered with iTunes. They say it's going to take 5 business days, so we're maybe looking into hopefully by the time this podcast is up and running, you can actually hear our podcast on all platforms.
That'd be awesome.
And if you are not hearing it on a platform that you love, please let us know, because we can get it everywhere. It's an insane amount of places to hear podcasts these days, and iTunes probably covers 70% of them, but it's that other 30%. If you have something on your phone you love and you want to hear our show, we'd be happy to make sure it's there, because it's no hassle for us. So
awesome.
Anyway,
no, it's we've been wanting to do this for a long time, so it's awesome. We're almost there.
And we actually got some pretty funny feedback off that last podcast.
Yeah.
If you remember,
actually very helpful.
True.
Feedback.
And some funny stuff too. There was a guy. Gopher Hayes, that was his name.
Yeah, that guy, I'll tell you, Gopher, if you're listening, boy, and I'm sure he will be listening, boy, that guy, he can really give us crap, dude.
Yeah, and he made me laugh, too. So we discussed how stupid we thought the Ice Bucket Challenge was. Great idea, but, I mean, just the whole idea was silly to us. And the hot knife cutting things, we all, all that made us angry, or trespassing. And Gopher's idea was to make a video of using a hot knife to cut an ice bucket while trespassing, and then hopefully get me tased.
Yeah, he says this. He says, Gopher Hayes, man. I don't know what kind of a name that is. But,
I don't know, but I like him.
Just cut an ice water bucket with a hot knife while trespassing at a private pond. Hopefully Pete gets tasered by the police, and I appreciate that he said you.
Right.
Because there's quite a few people that like to see bad stuff happen to me, it seems like.
That's true.
What's his face? I can't think of his name right now, but he's the guy that said that I had a voice like one of the Brady Bunch guys or something.
Actually, that was Aaron who actually sent me the GoPro that I'm using right now.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have nothing bad to say about him, but
no.
He said you sounded like Peter Brady, I think.
Yeah, I guess whatever.
And he mentioned your use of arms while you talk, which I absolutely love, because it's like an Al Linder.
Oh yeah, no, the most successful like cult leaders, dictators, they all, if you watch them, they're charismatic. They use their hands.
But the Al Linder reference,
man.
the Al Linder reference was perfect, because Al he's a feisty one, and you've got a similar.
I love
beard.
Al.
You look like a young Al Linder.
One of my favorite human beings is Al. I've never even met him.
Right,
but
no, and one of our heroes. And that leads me to actually something else I want to talk about, which I'm not completely familiar with Target Walleye, which is sort of, maybe you could explain it better. It's a newsletter, but it's also a website, right?
Yeah. So Target Walleye is a website. The one of the guys that started it his name's Jay Kumar, and Jay Kumar started Bass Fan, which Bass Fan started. I want to say it's sort of like in the early 2000s, maybe the late 90s, and it was the first like digital bass fishing magazine.
Right.
And where I give Bass Fan a lot of credit too is it wasn't necessarily afraid to kind of wow, are you okay?
I tried to hit mute. I'm not sure how you heard that.
Well, Pete, if you didn't hear it, he belched out a huge volume of air.
How did you hear that? I have a mute on my mic. Here.
Well, I heard it. So maybe maybe it doesn't come through on the podcast, but trust me, I heard it in my earphones. It's disgusting.
Great. So I wonder how you're hearing me now.
Try to be more professional, please.
Well, you're not hearing me through my mic, so you may be just hearing through my...
who cares? No one cares that's listening to this podcast about whether your mute button works or not.
Well, they didn't hear that burp. Only you did.
Well, they missed out. It was something. Yeah,
it was fabulous.
It was disgusting.
I'd like to dedicate that burp to Pseudo Sue, which I'm drinking right now. Toppling Goliath, thank you.
All right. I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the first digital magazine. Okay,
so it was Bass Fan, right?
Right.
So Bass Fan was awesome because they didn't shy away from controversial subjects, like print magazines would do. They were an independent media, digital media company
like
that was reporting independently on bass fishing. So basically they're doing the same thing with walleye fishing with Target Walleye. So it's like the walleye version of Bass Fan, is my understanding of it.
Right. And I
saw
like
Al and Ron Lindner are behind it, and the guy that is responsible for sending out the newsletter, he might do a lot more than just the newsletter. I'm not sure, but his name is Brett McComas.
I was just going to go for that. So how do I know that name? Because I recognize that name.
Because he subscribes to another fishing show, our YouTube channel, and so he's made some very nice comments, about what we're doing, and surprised that we don't, have many subscribers.
So essentially what he did is he included us in the newsletter for last week.
Yeah, so did you read it?
I did. Well, I mean, it was just that one paragraph, right?
Yeah, but it was nice. We got an immediate boost in subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Right, so what was it called? It was like most underrated YouTube channel, or...
Yeah, I'll read it here. I have it actually.
It was a really nice
I sent it to you.
You did. So, Brett, I would like to just say thanks for that, because that's a nice plug, and a lot of people saw it, obviously.
Well, I think we also, I need to send him like a direct message on Instagram or something. He's a guy that, even just reading through this newsletter, and if you go on Target Walleye, I guess it's targetwalleye.com, you can see that they're kind of all about, I get the sense they're kind of all about cutting through the BS,
Right.
And Brett I get that sense. I've never met him, but I get that sense about him. So I dig that, man.
They must be Minnesota guys or Midwest guys, or
Brett I think is from I think he's from Brainerd.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm looking for it right here. Oh, so he basically gives like a top 10 of like stuff going on like in the world of fishing, And
we're talking about an email newsletter that's just got like 10 items in it, right?
Well, it's a number of items, but when you get down to like where he just starts naming off some things that are happening, kind of trending things in fishing, or things that he thinks people should be paying attention to.
Right.
He number 7, he writes underrated fishing YouTube channel of the day. And he writes, it's not just another fishing show, it's another fishing show, laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out how they only have 2,000 subscribers. Don't worry, Brett, so are we. then he says, show them some love if fishing podcasts and YouTube episodes are your thing. So,
oh, you mentioned the podcast, huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so he's listened to our podcast. He said that he enjoys our podcast. And so, yeah, thank you, Brett. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's nice of you to do that.
Big shout out to Brett. And I believe the irony of that was about the same time he was writing that email, we were doing a podcast about how frustrated we are with the way walleye management overcomes all other type of fishing in Minnesota.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I love catching all fish. I can't get super excited about catching a white sucker, you know? So if I'm being honest, there's fish I like catching over other fish, you know?
Right.
White suckers on the lower end of the totem pole.
Right.
But I love catching walleye, you know? I just get frustrated that there are some anglers that they can't, you know, that they're so focused on walleye. I mean, the Mille Lacs is a great example. When people, you know, they put regulations on Mille Lacs, on the walleye regulations on Mille Lacs that limit the numbers of walleyes that you can keep or whatever, and people lose their minds. It's like, you know, go to another lake, or there's bass fishing opportunities. I get frustrated by being so locked in maybe to one species.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I say that I love to bass fish. It's what I'm best at, you know, bass fishing.
Right.
But you know, and I understand that Mille Lacs is an amazing fishery. But I guess more than anything, what frustrates me with walleye fishing is that our DNR puts, you know, they restrict me from fishing for bass because they're trying to protect walleye. That really gets me, man.
It was an ironic week to be on Target Walleye, but we complain about this a lot.
Yeah, and so for anybody that might have, you know, heard about us through Target Walleye, which we got a great bump in subscribers from it. If you're listening to this for the first time, we love walleye. In fact, watch our feature episode. Go to our playlist. Go to YouTube, go to our playlist, feature episodes, and look at the Night Fishing for Walleyes feature episode.
Exactly.
We love walleyes, but it's just
That's how I learned to fish, was fishing for walleye. You know, there really is like.
Is it walleye or walleyes? Is walleye both singular and plural? That's what I want to know.
I don't think so. I think you can fish for walleye. You don't need to be plural, especially when we're fishing.
We got to ask like the experts. What are the pros? How do the pros, you know, do?
Yeah, it's rarely plural fish anything when we're fishing together, but I think it is worth pointing out too. Like, it is kind of funny how there's, you know, we're a type of fisherman that sort of spans the entire spectrum of fishing. And in a place like Minnesota, which is so packed full of fishing opportunities, you have guys that are just, you know, pike, maybe muskie guys, kind of fall in the same category. But muskie guys, a lot of them are just muskie guys. They're not pike guys. And then you have your walleye guys, and then you have your bass guys. You even have your rough fish guys. But really, for me, like, I love all of it. You know, I'm not fishing for the frying pan, generally speaking.
Right.
But I do have an affection for walleye guys in general, partly because my grandpa was one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
He just didn't have any money, and it was a big deal for him. It was like catching a lobster, you know, like, I'm going to eat like a king tonight, you know, like, you know, I couldn't afford to buy this, but I can afford to go catch it, you know, and I'm still fishing out of that boat, and it's kind of a fun thing to see. But he used to take us out, and we'd be casting, you know, whatever we could as far away from the boat as we could to see if there was something else out there, you know.
Well, I was saying, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you should let people know that the boat that we fish out of, your boat, it was your grandpa's boat,
right?
You know, like, so there's a ton of history there.
And when he bought it, I mean, it was his first like real boat, you know.
Yeah.
And it was for him like the investment of a lifetime. And I don't even know at the time what it cost. It's, you know, a 16-foot, early 80s Alumacraft with an early 80s Suzuki motor on it.
Yeah.
But he cherished that thing like you would not believe. I mean, he was so meticulous with it and took such good care of it and would not put it in harm's way. And just before the end of the season, at the end of last year, I took it in. and I had to rework the motor. I put on like bright ATV headlamps on the front of it. I welded the skag back on the motor for the 4th or 5th time. For some reason, that skag breaks, but it never completely falls off the engine. And then I had him put one of those. I don't even know the name of it. It lifts your motor up while you're traveling.
Oh, you got a jack? You got a jack plate on there?
It's not a jack plate. No, it's while you're traveling on the trailer. It's called like a transom saver, I think they call it.
Oh yeah, you got a transom? Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome.
So now my
Nice.
motor, because I've lost the skag a couple times just pulling out of a bait shop parking lot or something, you know.
Okay.
And then put a new power source on it so it charges the batteries.
Is it basically tilting up your motor now?
Yeah, it lifts it up.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying is, like, it's fun for me to keep putting this boat in the shop and spending thousands of dollars on the boat. It's probably worth what I put into it at the end of the season last year. But like, I'm not looking for a new boat. It's like a museum piece for me, you know. So I love keeping that thing in perfect condition. And then of course, I decided to get the boat out last Wednesday, and it's that classic situation where everything, you know, what could possibly go wrong, and the taillights don't work. Right?
It's classic Wagner.
It's just perfect. So, and this is ended up being my Wednesday where I should have been fishing.
Yeah.
And it turned into a terrible day anyway, so this worked out fairly well for me. But after cutting off the connector on the boat side and wiring a new one on there, and then cutting off a connector on the car side and wiring a new one on there, I could not get anything to work. I have 2 vehicles. Nothing would work. Well, turns out both vehicles were screwed. Like, there's a box apparently they install in your taillight that manages the lighting system for your trailer. You can't even see it. It's like you have to take your taillight apart to find it.
Really?
So I ended up taking it to a U-Haul place who shockingly was like, bring her in right now, you know. And this guy like wired the whole thing up, and he's like, what the hell? Why would you have your wire hanging outside your car? Which to me now I realize, like, yeah, that's ridiculous. He's like, you live in Minnesota. Isn't that thing just turn green and rust every year? And I'm like, yeah, every single year.
Oh my gosh.
So he built it inside the vehicle. So all my cords now are sitting inside a little cubby.
How did you even know to go to U-Haul?
Because I was just looking for like hitch and trailer places, and I remember it might have been I don't remember. I moved somewhere and needed a hitch, and U-Haul is like the specialist for that. So they have all the parts there. They have a shop there where they'll put on a hitch for you and all the trailer wiring. So this guy was like a salty guy because he was just yelling at me the entire time, you know. But I'm like, well, this is the guy I want because he knows how to put the wiring in this. Yeah. So he redid all my wiring, and then he left it in the car. So when I want to hook it to the boat, I pull it out and I just close the gate on it. He's like, that's what that rubber stuff is for. You just slam that cord right on the gate. Quit worrying about it. You've been an idiot for 10 years. I'm like, all right. So it was kind of cool to get that. So now I've got taillights. I still have not fired up the motor. I'm going to do that in the driveway this week, and that kind of leads me to where we wanted to go next, which is you and me are actually going to attempt to fish this Wednesday. Last Wednesday we wanted to get out on the Mississippi, and it just turned into a brutally cold and raining day, and we didn't get to do anything. So this Wednesday, I just looked at the forecast before we got on air.
Is this interesting to people, do you think? Like us talking about where we're going to be fishing for the week?
Yeah.
So let's ask in the comments if you're listening to this on YouTube, in the comments, say if this let us know if this is interesting.
And it also put in the comments if you guys find it interesting when Greg is always questioning the quality of the podcast versus just mowing right through it and putting on a podcast. Okay. And if you have show ideas, we'd love to hear them too.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And honestly, we got a lot of great tips.
Yeah, we love hearing that stuff.
On how to improve our channel and actually, grow an audience. So thank you for that.
And even busting our balls, I find that incredibly humorous, when people just sort of lay it out.
I guess we set ourselves up for that, don't we?
We do.
Because we're self, what do you call that?
Effacing. We don't. Our vocabulary is not that great. Yeah,
we're self-deprecating.
Effacing is something, though, right?
I have no idea. Effacing, that is like that's to the facade of a building to rip it off.
We may not have.
You need to go back to school, man.
But I do like I never get offended by ball busting. I mean, there's different types of it, but I find it funny when people are like,
it's because you're typically not on the receiving end of it.
Well, I mean, I just appreciate an honest opinion. Like, if you're busting our balls and you're making a good point, I like to be aware of that, you know? Like, count me in, you know?
All right, so what are we doing?
Anyway,
so Wednesday is when we go. Pete can't fish any other day except Wednesday, so it locks me into having to fish Wednesdays only.
It's my day off, although I do usually try and get out in the mornings on the weekend if I can. And by the way, the reason I think this might be interesting for people is because it leads up to hopefully an episode they get to watch and see how it turned out.
That's all right.
But so last Wednesday we got rained out. So this Wednesday we're debating between two situations. At least I am. So Greg's forced to come to me because I have fish down here. There's an open season on the Mississippi by me, but not by him. We went over that at length last week.
Right, we covered that.
Right, so we were hoping to get out for the ice out sort of pike bite on the Mississippi, and now we've had, it was 83 degrees here today. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's an awesome day.
But it was. But
hey, by the way, today, I don't mean to digress, but this is important. So today was Easter. Right. And I know we probably shouldn't, kind of timestamp our podcast like this.
Yeah, I was avoiding it.
But I'm just going to blow right through that whole idea because here's the idea. Here, think about this. Who is determining when Easter is every year? Today's the 21st, correct?
Yeah, it's the third Sunday, right?
Well, last year it was April 1st. So,
what?
Yes, last year Easter was April 1st.
No.
How can Easter? Yes, true. So
is that a fact?
Fact.
8 years of Catholic school didn't tell me why that happens.
Evidently not. But, as a conspiracy theorist, I have to go, who determines this? Is it the Pope? Is this decreed through, in Rome that this is the? Well, I mean, what is going on there?
What is going on? I'm frantically looking at a calendar to try and see if you're right.
I'm right. Look it up. We have the thing called the internet. If you Google, you know what Google is? Google. April, Easter 2018.
The Google squad, right?
Google.com.
Easter.
That'll take you to what's known as a search engine. And you put in there...
It's April 1st.
Last year, Easter was April 1st. So
it was March 27th in 2016, April 16th in 2017, April 1st in 2018.
So you tell me what's going on there.
I don't know. I'm sorry I doubted you, bud. I mean, you really didn't know your Easter stats. And then, the 21st. I don't know what... I always thought it was the third Sunday. Why is that? Is there another holiday that's like the third something of the month? Or, is that Patty's Day or... Well, whatever. That's weird.
I don't get it. I want to. That's something maybe we delve into. Like maybe between podcasts we delve into how is Easter figured out. Like when we're gonna,
Oh my God, really, that sounds like an amazing podcast.
Well, it's strange. It is strange.
But
it's strange.
But what I was saying, so now we're because of the warm weather this weekend.
Well, you don't want to talk about Easter some more?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, unless you have more to expound on.
All right.
So pike spawn under the ice, and the way you catch those...
Well, no. I think they spawn right at ice out.
They spawn under the ice a lot. That's a lot going on. I don't know about the Mississippi, but they start to spawn when there's still ice on the water in a lot of places. Okay. But anyway, I mean, to catch them, you got to get them right at ice out. In the Mississippi, they just disappear in the summer. It's kind of a bizarre thing because they're a cold water fish.
They're going deep, man.
Yeah, they just hide out and they're hard to find. You can catch them by springs, and there's some cool spots. Sense. But it's kind of weird.
I bet you that's something that once you figure it out, it could be crazy.
It's fun.
There's a way to figure it out.
Well, I caught it. Remember, I got like a 30-plus pike at the end of last year in shallow water. He was in like 3-4 feet of water, and I was
Were they
fishing
big ones?
He was over 30 inches. I mean, it just got warm that day. But he came out of the weeds like a wolf, man. I was throwing a big old
one of them water wolves.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just that V on the wall. Like I threw it, landed it right by some reeds.
One of my very first, not to cut you off.
Yeah,
I cut you off. That's so rude. Go ahead.
It's standard. Well, I was just saying, it landed. It was one of those perfect casts, almost in the reeds,
Yeah.
And when I started the retrieve, I could see the reeds moving. Like the fish was in the reeds in like 2 feet of water before the V started, and then this V was just like jaws halfway back to the boat. And when he turned sideways on it, like the whole fish came out of the water. It was like boring 6 hours and then kaboom, and like my whole day was made.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, pike they're slashers, man. They
Right.
have one of the most vicious strikes there is.
Yeah,
But then, in fresh water, but then they kind of peter out. They
Right.
kind of like, oh, okay, all right.
and they're obnoxious and
I
high
mean, they have a lot, like their initial strike, they have a lot of energy at first, but then they kind of, I don't know, seem like they kind of peter out a little bit sooner than, most game fish. I mean, I don't know, largemouth are kind of the same way, but.
Well, they kind of get a bad rap because they drive a lot of people nuts, and when they get overpopulated, they get that hammer handle reputation where all you catch is the same size pike, and you can't catch anything else because there's so many of them in the lake.
They're stunted,
But like when we were kids and would go up north, up north was just like, oh my god, for us to catch a pike was amazing.
Yeah.
And for my grandpa, he called them jackfish, which is one of a million names.
Yeah.
Snot rocket,
right.
Slew snake, or whatever. We used to love that though, like being able to catch a wild fish because we were in bullhead country and just getting up there. But I can see how they just sort of wear people down, especially if you're jigging for eyes or whatever, and you feel a bite for 1 second, and you don't have a leader on there, and your lure is gone, and you're like, oh my god, are we going to be dealing with this all day?
What I was going to say when I rudely interrupted a few moments ago, one of my very first fishing videos was Water Wolves of the North by Babe Winkleman. It was a VHS tape. VHS, man.
Oh, that was one of the first owned videos you had?
Yeah. I bought it. I think I bought it through like the mail or something. It was Babe Winkleman. And he had his like green screen fake, backdrop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it looked like a northern, like he was in his living room and he had a lake view and like this, pine trees and
he was 75
but
pounds
it was totally
lighter.
green. And he was it was a greens. It was totally looked fake.
Right.
But I don't know, whatever. But yeah, so I've always had an affinity for pike. It's just, they're not really considered much of a game fish until they get like Canadian size. It seems like, which I don't know why that is. Why there's people don't take them, more seriously. I think it's kind of it's kind of stupid because they hit hard. They're fun to catch, but
and they're king of the food chain. I mean, they're a pretty awesome idea for a fish.
Well, I mean, they're a cold water fish, so that's why they do so well as you get into Canada and even far in like northern into Canada. That's really where that fish
that's home sweet home.
That's home sweet home for them. They're a cold water fish, where muskies are actually a warmer. Of that species, the Esox species, muskies are warmer. That's why they kind of, the range of a muskie does not go as far north as northern pike.
Right, they can thrive.
And why you can stock muskies in Missouri. When I lived in Missouri, they stocked muskies down there. So they're way better at warmer. They're more. Their habitat or whatever, their ideal water temperature is much warmer than northern pike.
Right.
But we digress. So the options for Wednesday, we're thinking of going to the Mississippi River for northern pike.
Which we still might, but I think our pike ship has sailed at this point because I have no idea.
I think so, yeah.
But the other thing, that same backwater area turns into a great bass fishery at some point, so we might get some of that pre-spawn bass.
I think that is, if we wanted to go that route, I think it would be awesome. We've had 2 really warm days here, and the water temperature. I don't know what I have no idea what the water temperature is. I mean, is it in the 50s now? I
would think so, but
late or high 50s. I mean, you can do very well on bass at that water temperature, like high 50s, mid 50s, largemouth. Man, it can be awesome. Could be some of the best fishing of the year.
Yeah.
But the other alternative, the other option was what?
was rough fishing. So the
Right.
red horse, well, among many things, but the rivers in the Driftless, which is southeastern Minnesota, have cold, cool rivers, and they have this insane rough fish run of like 7 kinds of red horse and what you loved white sucker and hognose suckers, and there's sturgeon and there's cats, and it's just like it's a crazy time of year there, and you run into walleye and you catch trout while you're doing all this too. It's all mixed in together. And the reason I would push for that if it's happening is because it's like this crazy blast out window, and then it's done. You don't see them the rest of the year. You just catch them randomly, where bass fishing we end up doing for the rest of the summer.
Right.
So,
I would say that I would side on the rough fish deal.
Yeah.
On the sucker deal, because like you said, it can go pretty quick. Like
it just
hitting
depends
that prime.
on what's on. Yeah. So
Right.
on Tuesday, I'm gonna zip down there. It's about 40 minutes from my house. Immediately. What's going to decide for us is going to be the rain tomorrow. We're supposed to get rain down here. And the rivers,
really? Okay.
The rivers are just starting to settle in. They're still high,
Yeah.
but if they're clear, you can fish them. But if it starts pushing hard again, we're going to the Mississippi. So that is the plan. We will find out, and you will know where we were fishing.
We're going to make a video out of it.
If we catch some fish, we're going to make some video. Otherwise, we refuse to make you people watch a video where we did not catch a fish unless something violently hilarious happens.
Yeah, unless something happens where it could get us a lot of views on YouTube.
Right. Like Greg loses an arm or something.
Oh yeah, that would be great. That would be great for our channel.
That would be amazing. So
but I'm not willing to do it on purpose.
So
But
anyway,
if it happened, on accident, I'd go, yeah, go ahead, put that on, Pete.
yeah, right.
Go ahead and upload that to our YouTube channel.
And did you see that there was like official ice out day on Minnetonka this week too? Like,
No, I didn't.
last year,
What is there? What do they have, a parade or something?
it's kind of like that. For some reason, well, I think they just use it as a metro, sort of a marker, sort of a benchmark. In the up north, I'm sure they use Mille Lacs or Leech or whatever. But the big article was, and it hit the average this year too, which is kind of shocking after this winter.
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually, heck, the ice went out late on the lake that I live on. It went out later last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Last year it was a couple of weeks. So last year was close to the record, if not the record. So it was good to see that ice finally dropped, and
Yeah.
we're officially into spring. But
Don't you dare go out on Minnetonka and fish for bass right now. I saw a bass boat today, Pete. Okay, I saw a bass boat, and I shook my finger at him.
You did?
I actually, what I did is you know how you take your index finger and your middle finger, and like I'm watching you.
Right. My eyes
I'm pointing
to your
at my
eyes.
eyes, and I point at his.
Yeah. Right.
I don't like that I can't fish for bass legally right now. The DNR won't allow me to legally fish for bass inland in Minnesota. I don't agree with it, these regulations, but by God, if I'm not going to fish, I don't want any other bass fisherman fishing either.
Well, what if he was just taking this boat to the marina to get it worked on?
That's totally possible. But I was just I mean, that's possible that I was just this jerk, like what I'm not going fishing. I'm taking it to the shop to get the term summarized. Have you seen that? These boat dealers are like, they just to get more money out of people, they say that, you need to get your boat summarized, because you get your boat winterized.
Right. I thought you were talking about a summary, but you're talking about a season. Gotcha.
So, yeah, maybe he was just getting his boat summarized.
Right. Or maybe he just thinks you were hitting on him. That's an entire possibility.
That'd be unfortunate, but whatever.
Did you also see in a Chaska chain of lakes up there that goldfish are taking over?
Yeah, I did see that because you sent me all the links of stuff that we were going to talk about in our podcast. But that was a nice like cliche, or what do you call that? I was going to say cliche, a segue.
It's like a yeah.
No, I did. So I did. I looked at that story. So Chaska is a town not far from Lake Minnetonka, a suburb of the Minneapolis-St. Paul here in Minnesota. And Chaska, all these lakes. There's a ton of lakes around Minneapolis-St. Paul. And so I looked at that article. There's an infestation, I guess, of goldfish in a few of these Chaska lakes. Looks like 2 of them. And they, what's funny about it is they make it seem like it's the end of the world, and that
like
this
it's
swarm
like the only
of gold
fish
well,
in
dude,
the lake.
like, well, I mean, first of all, these goldfish are like, they're probably 3 or 4 inches long, maybe 3 inches long, you know? And I'm like, dude, they stick out like a sore thumb. There's largemouth in every lake. You know, there's pike. They're going to hammer them.
They're going to clean them up.
They're going to hammer them.
And even the picture was funny. It was like in the Star Tribune, which is the big Minnesota-Minneapolis newspaper, and the picture they had, it kind of looked like a koi pond, and it just had all these little orange spots in it. And I'm like, really?
I have it right here. I got to wake my computer up, but I actually have it. There's a funny. So basically, what they suspect is that these goldfish were released from a pet owner. You know, a pet owner was like, I'm sick of having goldfish, man. They crap. I got to clean the tank or whatever. Yeah. But they didn't want to kill the goldfish, you know, or flush it down the toilet. So they release it into the lake. And I guess what happened is that they actually reproduce. So there's more goldfish. And the thing about goldfish, they're actually a cold water species, so they probably do really well in Minnesota.
Well, not only can they reproduce, but they say they can spawn more than 1,000 eggs at a time, multiple times a week.
Yeah. So what's funny is like they start going into like, and listen, I don't, you know, if you can, I don't like killing fish, you know, needlessly, you know. But it is kind of funny how they say in the article, the Minnesota Aquarium Society hosts occasional surrender events where people can bring their unwanted fish in a bag or other container.
Right.
And society members will handle them.
Right.
So the next surrender event will be held in Bloomington on April 27th. So guys out there, if you have any goldfish, any fish, maybe you have some of those beta, you know, splendens that in a jar. You don't; those are
Chinese
super easy.
fighting
Why
fish.
would you? That's the easiest fish to take care of. Why would you get rid of one? But anyway, if you want to get,
like, you can raise one in a shot glass.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
So take them to the April 27th, the Minnesota Aquarium Society. They're having a surrender event. Go ahead and take them there. But it's funny,
I've got a show idea for a surrender event.
Okay.
All right, this just came to me.
All right.
All right, we catch the nastiest smelling drum with like a giant tumor on the side of its head. And then, you know, maybe pick another one. Like, I'm sure there's some species we could catch.
This is a great idea.
Yeah, just awful. And then just like put them in like a 2-gallon Ziploc bag. And then go down there and like emotionally hand it over to these fish surrender people.
Can you write that down?
Well, it's on our podcast now.
Write that down, because that is a great, you know, these ideas we hardly ever actually do them, but that is a great idea.
It's just like I can't take care of this fish anymore. I've been falling on hard times.
Where are you going to find? Do you know an area where you can find fish that are just jacked up?
Well,
you know, that have growths on them, like on a consistent basic. You can go somewhere and find fish that have these problems.
I think there's a reason pool 2 is catch and release only. You know what I'm saying?
Are you now? There's an area where there's a water treatment plant that's dumping stuff. Maybe that would be a good maybe a good candidate to find the fish there.
I don't think it's as hard as you think it is. I think we could pretty much pull that off.
So the idea is, I've had this pet. I mean, I love them. But, you know, but you can say like you're moving or something.
I'm moving to.
I got a new job. I'm moving to a different state.
Well, I'm moving into a condo that has like a 0 drum tolerance policy.
Okay, so you're thinking it's a drum, or a drum would be funny.
What's better than a drum? And by the way, where does the hate for drums come from? Like, you know, I mean, I don't like them either.
I don't know.
But why do we hate them so much?
Well, the biggest problem with drum, freshwater drum, sheephead is kind of the derogatory term for them.
Right.
Freshwater drum is a little bit more of a, I don't know. Seems
it's more
like
sciencey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that the freshwater drum doesn't get a lot of love, because you have to really get a big one for that fish to fight hard. Like
Right.
seriously, dude. Like you catch a freshwater drum that's like a 3-pounder, like a 2. They're really wimps, dude.
Right.
I mean, and I love all fish, man. But a freshwater drum like a 3-pounder is like, okay.
I don't know. I get
all
the
right.
feeling it runs deeper than that. There's a lot of guys that have caught big drum that aren't like, wow,
Well,
now
have
I
you
love
ever,
drum.
Maybe they're wormy.
I guess. Or they have
I
rocks,
mean, do you know anybody
rocks
that's
in their
eaten
head?
a
Was that drums, right?
What's that?
Don't they have like rocks in their head they can run together and make
No, they're
noise?
a croaker. Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
croaker. They're actually a
Right.
croaker, I believe.
But that shouldn't make us hate them, right? That's kind of a cool thing.
No. I mean, I don't hate them. It's one of the fish that we kind of started our careers on.
I guess, but are you happy when you catch a drum?
Seriously, think of like when we go to Lake Pepin.
Oh, I'm not
You know?
arguing with you, but I'm just saying, like, when you catch a drum, do you have a happy feeling?
Well, I'm happy to. Not. I mean, if I'm targeting, no. I mean, no.
See?
If I'm being honest, you know.
Right. I don't know why
No.
that is, but I agree.
Well,
with you.
if it was I mean, there. You know, you can catch some giant. Yeah, it's not. It's unfortunately that poor fish gets no respect.
Yeah, where was that? Like up in Canada, we saw some guys catching like.
Yeah,
these-
it's uncut angling. It's
right.
There's a place in Canada. I don't know where it is, but they're giant, dude.
They're
They've got to be the
unrecognizable.
biggest drum in the world.
It
up
looked like
there.
a different species. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
And that would be, dude. I mean, that's a whole different ball. You know.
Yeah, that could teach us to like drum, but anyway, yeah. So drum, I just think is a fine candidate for bringing to the.
I think that's a great idea. Listen to this. This is funny. So the last, you know, they're saying that, you know, these fish, these goldfish, now they're running amok on the lakes in Chaska. They say that invasive species. Personally, I feel that the invasive species topic issue is overblown.
Yeah,
That's not to say that I wish that in a perfect world, I wish if this is a perfect world, we could get rid of them, you know, and there weren't invasive species. But it isn't Earth. Earth doesn't work that way, dude. Human beings are an invasive species. Human beings didn't start here.
Right.
You know? So, and overall, I think invasive species, the detriment that they cause, the supposed detriment is overblown. Like, you can make an argument that if a species, what's the word? If a species really takes off, that it's successful. And you know, like it's
found its way to. You know.
well, it's found. I mean, if you look at natural history is full of species that are bumping other ones out. Those go extinct. I mean,
you could argue that you know, all life came from a meteor that had the ingredients for life. So like everything's like the ultimate invasive species.
Well, right, but you can all. I mean, it's. I think sometimes we as humans we get so short-sighted and
We overdo it. Yeah.
I mean, but anyway.
Do you feel that?
I
Do you feel that way? And I'm about to give you another segue too of another link I sent you.
Oh, but let me just finish this because I had this point. This is how they end this goldfish taking over the world article.
Right.
Flushing fish down the toilet, incidentally, and then I'm glad they let us know this.
Yes.
Flushing fish down the toilet, incidentally, is not humane. They won't die immediately, but will suffocate eventually. Let's just say it won't be pleasant. Yeah, they're suffocating. What are they suffocating in? I mean, it's terrible. Okay. Anyway, I thought that was funny that's how they ended that.
Yeah, and
that
you know who
article.
said that? That was Megan Weber, extension educator for the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center.
Yeah, but it was nice of her to know or let us know that it is not humane to do that.
Right. Well, and it is kind of funny. Like she kind of cares about the invasive species. She's in charge of.
Well, right. I'm so confused by it all, dude.
So the other invasive species stories this week was the silver carp, and this is where you can make an argument where an invasive species could legitimately be a bad thing. And I'm not exactly sure how detrimental this fish is. I mean, it's thrown a lot of people into a tizzy, and you hear everything about just carp in general destroying lakes and whatever, which they do. They create a lot of sediment. Rivers
utilize them then. You got to utilize them, dude.
And the thing with Asian carp is, and they're saying they found one while they were netting on the St. Croix, and the St. Croix is like a cherished border water in Minnesota, pristine. It's a national scenic waterway, and they only found one in a huge swath of fish that they caught that day.
I think the news now is they found a second one.
So how do you see that one? Like, the goldfish thing seems like kind of a BS story. But the Asian carp, I can't tell if people are terrified of Asian carp is because when they're in groups and you drive a boat through them, they'll jump and knock you out of the boat.
Right.
Or if it's, do they do anything worse than a regular carp besides jump up and whack you in the face? Because I have a boat that doesn't go fast enough where I'm not scared of Asian carp.
Well, your boat would, it would definitely scare them enough that they could, like, at least jump into the boat. But
yeah, it was a joke.
Yeah.
But some of those boats...
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
In some of those boats, they put up those plexiglass windshields in the front of the boat. Have you seen these?
So they're filter feeders. So you can't catch them, with a hook. So there's no, as far as a sport fish goes, they're not a sport fish. You can't catch it with a hook and line. But there is there could be, if people wanted to, that it could be a commercial fish.
I guess.
To eat.
Yeah.
But someone could commercially fish for them, and that could be a food fish. But you saw how what happened with common carp. Common carp, that was the idea, for common carp. That's why they were brought here in the 1800s. They were supposed to be a food fish, and that never worked.
Well, they still commercially fish those things and send them out to the East Coast. That's a huge Jewish delicacy.
Common carp
fish, yeah.
Gefilte fish is common carp.
It's carp.
Is it carp? Well, which is a common carp?
When I dropped into the Mississippi last year, there was a commercial carp fishing truck that shipped it directly to New York. Because I was talking to the guys. I've never seen so many giant... They had them in these crates that were just sitting up on shore, just on dry land.
Really?
And they were as taller than me, and they were the size of a pallet because they were filling a semi-truck with them, just a refrigerated truck with uncut or uncleaned carp in it.
Huh.
And I asked them, I'm like, so what's going on here? Are you guys just trying to, clean up the river or whatever? And they're like, no, this is like the commercial fishing season is open. They have like a window in the spring.
And what time? Where were you at when you saw this?
Mississippi River. I don't remember. It was on the Wisconsin side somewhere.
Yeah, there was actually an Outdoor Channel show where following those guys. Probably the same guys you saw.
Probably so. And they sent that refrigerated truck directly to New York. That is gefilte fish.
So my point in that is that those fish can be utilized. Those silver carp can be utilized. So
Are silver carp an Asian fish? I don't even know.
Yeah, they're an Asian. It's Asian carp.
And how did they make their way?
I don't know that, but I do know that it's one of those things where that fish is in that particular as far as an invasive there, that fish could really be a pain for boating. So
yeah,
and really the only way to control them, I think, is with netting.
Right.
So you'd have to.
And that's my question. Do you think people are terrified of this? They call it a flying carp because of that part of it, or is it just an overall? My question is is it overhyped like the goldfish? Other than flying in the face, is it going to create a ton of chaos?
You have to look at it this way. I am so skeptical. Our news, and it's always been this way to a certain extent, but news is so based on. What can you do to get attention? The invasive species thing where you make it seem like, oh gosh, oh boy.
Here's the end.
Did you hear that we've got that, I don't know, Long Lake has got the zebra mussels in there now?
Hey, Vern,
have you heard this?
Vern, did you hear that?
So what you're telling me is that the Long Lake is actually going to be clearer now. Because it's got,
Vern, did you hear Minnesota culture's coming to an end? This here week, it's all about done now.
Yeah. So it's not, more than anything, I think the media has a tendency to overblow these things because it gets, the headline makes it seem like it's the end of the world. And I think more often than not, the invasive species, just issue isn't as bad as it's made out to be.
I agree.
So with the carp thing, they're filter feeders. Is that going to affect the fishery as far as like, is it going to go down through the food chain? Are they going to affect, sport fish because they're filter feeders? I don't. More than anything, I see it mainly as a boating issue.
It's more of a physical hazard, I think, than actual. Because it's just they seem to do the exact same thing as carp. They create the same issues by silting up areas and messing up vegetation.
I would say utilize them. That's what I say about common carp. If people don't like, I think it's funny when there's people that get mad that people bow fish for carp.
Right.
But to me, they're utilizing a fish that a lot of fishermen can't stand.
Right.
And a carp can. There's things that carp do that aren't good for a natural lake as far as disturbing.
Yeah, I think more for a lake than a river. I think just because of that still water. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just say, well, you're not getting rid of them. You're not getting rid of these invasives, man.
The news loves to cover, and it is kind of an interesting story, like how Superior, those big ships will come in and dump their ballast, and that creates a lot of chaos up there. But still, the verdict's kind of out, like you said. Those what are those mussels called?
Zebra mussels.
They cleaned up Superior in an insane way. It was the opposite of what the taconite mines were dumping in there, and they kind of cleaned up all these sites in a weird way. But remember, there was like a plankton they were making a big deal about. I don't even remember what the problem it caused was, but I haven't heard anything about it in 2 or 3 years. Almost just like it was just all hype at the time. But I guess part of it's the news is they're trying to make a point of something just to see if it's something that's worth paying attention to. But you know how that stuff works.
Oh yeah, you got to be very suspicious of it. A lot of times, just because it's in the newspaper, it doesn't. The invasive species thing is just a perfect example of it. Where you have a newspaper writer that maybe doesn't even know, maybe he's never even fished or never even been,
right?
And like, they just think that
he's probably
everything's
from
going
Texas.
to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, he's from Texas. He's like, this is what Minnesotans care about,
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we might be running up to the finish line here for this here podcast. But I do want to talk about one more thing.
Sure.
And I think I sent you this link too. This wasn't really a big story, but this is interesting to me.
All right.
Did you see? Did I send you the thing about the guy that caught the state record whitefish?
No.
So this was a guy, and he was from Oklahoma, and he was fishing in. It was near Baudette, so maybe this is Lake of the Woods.
Yeah. Sounds right.
And I've never personally caught a whitefish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think I have either.
On Lake of the Woods. So this fish, and I'm looking at a picture of it, was 13 and a half pounds.
Wow.
30 inches.
Wow. That's a huge whitefish.
That's
huge
a crazy.
Whitefish.
Like, I think of whitefish as like a schooling bait fish,
Right,
like, is that normal? Like, I don't even know what the previous one. The previous record lake whitefish, here it is, I guess, is 12 pounds, 4.5 ounces.
Still a giant. That's a giant fish.
That's crazy. A 30-inch whitefish,
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that happened just recently?
That just happened on the article I'm looking at, it's Outdoor News on the 8th. So it was just within the last week or something, but it happened April 8th, so he was ice fishing. He's standing on the ice with a picture. On Monday, April 8th, the fish was checked by the Minnesota Fisheries in Baudette and confirmed as a lake whitefish. He managed to get to Doug's supermarket in Moore Road, who I'm sure Doug was thrilled. King got there
just Moore Road, man.
just before the store closed on Saturday evening.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of blown away by that because when I saw it, it almost looks like a striper or something. It's just crazy looking.
Well, it's still narrow though. It's a slender fish though. Still, I mean that fish that big, probably not as slender, obviously, but yeah, they're real. They're a real interesting fish. They eat, I guess they're eating primarily insects. I wonder what they eat when they get that big.
I don't know. They drive a lot of those fisheries. I mean, they're the protein, the biomass,
prey,
if you will. But that one somehow slipped through the whole. I mean, if you can imagine being a whitefish living on Lake of the Woods, the things you have to avoid to get that big.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It is insane, but.
Yeah. No,
All right,
that's cool.
I think we better get our business going. I'm got an early morning tomorrow, and it's getting late. And,
Yeah.
As you pointed out, it was Easter, so I'm stuffed full of fish and just about finished with my beer.
I'm going to have some cheesecake.
Are you?
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
We're gonna end this. I'm gonna eat some cheesecake.
And I have, I usually get the extra big beer and drink, and then I know the podcast should be over about when that beer is finished. So
nice.
Yeah, the pseudo Sue will tell me. So
why don't we tell people how to get to all our different social media platforms where they can find Another Fishing Show?
Sure, go for it. I mean, you want
me to do it? So go. We have a YouTube channel, Another Fishing Show. Just search Another Fishing Show on YouTube. You'll find us.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we don't do much with Twitter. Maybe we can figure that out, like what we can do with that platform. But
if you want to follow me under Sassy Sunfish on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a big reveal.
That's Pete. Just so you know, this is a big reveal.
It's actually Pete, but I'm a smart ass sunfish that trolls various fishing communities, and I find it incredibly funny. And I actually don't necessarily troll. I go to a lot of bass fishermen, and I encourage them to kill their bass that they catch because they've terrorized my family for my entire life. And I think people get confused by it, and I always find it incredibly funny. So, sorry, I digress.
No, I love that idea. So, but, if you want to find us on social media, we're on all the platforms. Just search Another Fishing Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And,
you mentioned Instagram?
It's just Instagram. We do a lot with Instagram,
Facebook, all that stuff. We're into whatever the kids are into, and the kids are not into Facebook. Actually, we should be on Snapchat if we actually want to be what the kids are up to. But
gosh,
whatever.
Just another thing to.
You have anything else to say? Are you good?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening. Like I said at the start of the broadcast, this podcast, hopefully by the time this goes live on YouTube, will be available everywhere. If not, be patient with us. We are close, and we're going to have it on all platforms. Please do not leave your night crawlers in the sun. And this is Pete from Another Fishing Podcast signing off. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next week.